Good morning, everybody. How we doing, camera? Yeah, you're getting it together. Awesome, amazing. Welcome to the December 11th, 2023 edition of the pre-market prep session. This being a deluxe session because it's Monday, where we go over all the important news, notes, trade ideas, all that stuff that's going to be paramount to successful trading this week. We've got stuff on the economic calendar, right? We've got a ton of different things to go over. And Monday is where you set the groundwork. Every single time you do something, whether it's a basketball game, a football game, you're going to war, you're going to the grocery store, you're going to an amusement park. You're always better off when you have a game plan, when you have information, when you have knowledge, when you have the lay of the land, and you can develop a plan to move most efficiently and most effectively, right? And most importantly, set correct expectations. So that's what we do here each and every morning. We've got the gingerbread in the background. We got the Santa hat. We might be rotating through the Santa hats as we approach, Christmas. 2 days before my brother's birthday. I thank God for him each and every day, and I'm super excited to celebrate that with him, and just continue to be proud of him and continue to push him to be all that he can be. And also us be here to continue to push each other to be all that we can be. Unfortunately, it is with a heavy heart that I have to share with you guys that I did not even place in the gingerbread house competition. It was quite sad, honestly. I feel like I should call for a recount. I feel like Trump in like the 2020 election, whatever it was, whatever election that it was, when he called for a recount or he was trying to discount things. But yeah, just sad time. And I really gave my all. I'm not gonna lie. Bailey's stepdad is like a great person with his hands. He like builds things, and he paints and he builds and he constructs, and I'm not like that at all. And he had additions that he built onto the base gingerbread house, so he's the undisputed number one. I mean, he brings it home like each and every year. So I was just trying to vie for 2 or 3, but couldn't even get 2 or 3. And I'll post a video in the group, so you guys can see. I'm gonna see if I can get pictures of place number 1, place number 2, place number 3. But it was tough. I tried to bring it home, guys. I really gave it my all. I got pudding cups, and I cut open the pudding cups. Like, I cut around the top, and then I got a gingerbread person, and I broke it in half, and I stuck them in the pudding cup outside of the house. So it looked like a gingerbread person was hanging out in a pudding hot tub, and I still didn't place. I feel like that's got to be a recount. Got to be a recount. But anyways, it is what it is. So the gingerbread house will probably be leaving us after this, so I don't get PTSD from that. But this morning we're rocking the Snoopy Christmas hat from Grandma. She's a big Charlie Brown fan. Now, with all that out of the way, me having exposed my shame to you guys with once again not being able to place in the competition, I'm now going to take this next 360 odd days to train and to become the best gingerbread architect that I can, so that next year I can bring honor to my family's name. In terms of top news here this morning, we're going to talk about what we got in the week ahead. Investors will be focused on the last Federal Reserve meeting of the year this week. While the FOMC is expected to hold rates steady, the tone from Jerome Powell and gang will still be of high interest to market watchers. As it stands now, the Fed's favored inflation gauge, core PCE inflation, looks on track to end the year comfortably below the central bank's forecast and not too far off the Fed's 2% target. Outside of the Fed meeting, the economic calendar also includes the Consumer Price Index and Producer Price Index reports, as well as updates on retail sales and industrial production. Meanwhile, the earnings calendar finally slows down with reports from Oracle, Costco, whose ticker is Cost, and Darden Restaurants, whose ticker is DRI, standing out. Big corporate events this week will include the 65th American Society of Hematology conference taking place in San Diego, California, Chewy's first ever Investor Day event, and AI-related events from Intel. In terms of earnings, again, very light week. We've got Oracle today. That's probably the biggest one other than Adobe, who we've got on Wednesday. And we've got Costco on Thursday. So those are probably the 3 household names that are reporting this week. In terms of events, let's see if there are any important events. So the headliner event on the corporate calendar is Intel's AI Everywhere event. The semiconductor giant said the event will include the launch of the 5th gen Intel Xeon processors for data centers and Intel Core Ultra processors for laptops. Other events that could jolt share prices includes AECOM's Investor Day, Affirm Holdings Investor Meeting, L3 Harris Technologies Investor Day. blah, 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 tons of investor days going on. And then Chewy has the first investor day of its company's history. But other than that, not looking like a whole lot of stuff in terms of the week ahead, other than, of course, the last Fed meeting, right? So we're going to have our last Fed minutes of the year. That is probably going to be the biggest piece of information this week. Let's go and check the economic calendar or marketwatch.com, of course, just because we got to make sure that we're double checking what we got going on here. Monday, December 11th, nothing scheduled. It's nice. Tuesday, we got CPI data at 8:30 a.m. So that's important, right? CPI data, things that can move market, right? That's like first and foremost right up front when we talk about CPI, PPI. So Tuesday, things start to heat up with data. We get CPI data tomorrow. Wednesday, we get PPI data. So CPI data is inflation data for consumers. That's us, right? PPI is for producers. So how much, prices have increased when it comes to producing the things that we consume. So you got CPI on Tuesday, PPI on Wednesday. Those two numbers don't always have to coincide, right? Sometimes they can diverge, as we found out previously. Thursday, we get jobless claims and retail sales at 8:30 a.m. And then Friday, okay, nothing really super important on Friday, but yeah, Wednesday we get FOMC interest rate decision as well, and we get Powell press conference. So Wednesday is going to be, kind of the most important day of the week. Tuesday we get CPI. Wednesday we get Fed and PPI. So we are getting a few data drops here, which is kind of annoying because we've been in this, arena of chop, and we might stay in this arena of chop if we, are waiting on data to drop. So we'll see what the market has for us. But as of right now, it's definitely been more of a focus on individual names rather than the broader market indexes. SPY, been playing games, right? QQQ, been playing games, been range bound, been stuck. We want to focus on things that are moving and also recognize the market is in a tender spot. So, we just make sure that we manage risk, but that we focus on the things that are moving, which is individuals, because the actual indexes themselves aren't really doing too much. But yeah, those are going to be the big, pieces that this week hinges on. So again, Monday is about developing the game plan and developing your expectations. We got CPI data tomorrow, right? Inflation data. And then on Wednesday, the big day where we have PPI, and then we have FOMC interest rate decision, and then we have Chairman Jerome Powell. So if we do make a big move, right, SPY's been in this rising wedge. We'll see if, anything comes of it, or if it just does continue to just truck on and absolutely hulk forward. That's an option. Or we get a big move under the guise of whatever Powell has to say. So I think that Powell will shed a lot of light on this. And if there's any type of mismatch between what the market is expecting and what Powell has to say, that's when we get a big move. So those are the most important points of the week, right? You talk about the fulcrum. That is kind of the fulcrum of our price action this week will likely be based off of what we get on Wednesday. So let's see what else we got here in terms of our Monday specific news. Let's get into it. Rate cuts loom as markets gear up for major central bank meetings this week, starting with Federal Reserve on December 12th to 13th. All eyes will closely watch for any change in the policymakers' tone to predict when rate cuts will begin and by how much. The European Central Bank, Bank of England, Swiss National Bank, and Norges Bank will meet on Thursday. Market expectations. While the Fed is widely expected to hold its federal funds target range steady at 5.25 to 5.5% for the third time, most market participants are betting on rate cuts starting in May. Goldman Sachs expects the Fed to cut rates twice next year, with the first expected in Q3, earlier than its prior outlook of rate cuts starting next December. Bank of America projected the Fed will start cutting rates in June, and Morgan Stanley sees rate cuts in mid-2024. But Deutsche Bank expects the central bank's dot plot to avoid suggesting cuts in the first half of 2024. Now, in terms of policy risks, economists are worried about two major policy risks. One is that the Fed waits too long to ease policy to ensure inflation remains low, meaning higher interest rates would weigh on economic growth, risking a recession. The other risk is that the Fed could cut rates prematurely while inflation remains above its 2% target, while a stronger than expected labor market tempered bets of rate cuts starting in March. The recent disinflationary trend has been encouraging. Retail inflation was unchanged in October, while core PCE, the Fed's preferred inflation gauge, reached this year's lowest level. Markets now await the consumer price inflation report due on Tuesday for disinflation updates. In terms of seeking alpha commentary, the Fed will not want to endorse the market pricing of significant cuts until they are confident price pressures are quashed. I think they meant squashed. Quashed might also be a word that I'm just not aware of. Said ING Economic and Financial Analysis. Quote, the Fed will eventually shift to a more dovish stance, but this may not come until late in Q1 2024. But investing group leader, fear and greed trader cautioned, quote, the good news on interest rates, the short-term trend is down, and the Fed will be cutting rates next year. The bad news, the longer-term primary trend is up. Thank you so much for your input. So, yeah, this is pretty much all speculation until we get what we get from Powell, right? So we'll see what he has to say between those, pursed lips on Wednesday. He'll give us some type of inclination as to what to expect, or maybe he'll just say that we're data dependent, yada yada yada. But this is people are really starting to get their hopes up for interest rate cuts next year. People are obviously hoping for sooner rather than later. It is an election year, so that that guy in the White House who wants to get reelected is going to do everything that he can in order to make that happen. So I do think that we see cuts at some point, and if he has anything to say about it, it will probably be sooner rather than later, so that you get a boom going into election year, right? Because we already have market has reached new all-time highs. It doesn't feel like it for a lot of people because that doesn't translate to material wealth. But you have market reaching new all-time highs, and then you've got inflation still high, but if they can get inflation low and market at new all-time highs, then suddenly everybody has this very positive recency bias when they go back to the polls. In terms of AI news here, new base. NVIDIA wants to set up a production base in Vietnam. Its CEO, Jensen Huang, said during a visit to the country, and plans to deepen its partnerships with local tech firms to support AI advancement. NVIDIA, which already invested around $250 million in Vietnam, will expand its existing AI partnerships with Vietnamese companies FPT, Viettel, and Vingroup. The partnerships were part of the Biden administration deepening ties with Vietnam in September as the country looks to expand its tech industry. Vietnamese investor minister Nguyen Chi Dung also called on NVIDIA to consider establishing a research and development center in the country. So NVIDIA might be moving to Vietnam, expanding operations there. We've got a lot of different corporations that are changing where they are, where their components are being built. Apple has been making and seems like it will continue to make this push into India. So yeah, we've got stirrings that are occurring in the U.S. really trying to strengthen its relations with Asian countries outside of China to make sure that whatever happens between us and China, we're still good. In terms of merger and acquisition news, merger scrapped. Another one bites the dust. Health insurers Cigna and Humana have scrapped plans to merge after being unable to agree on financial terms. Cigna will instead seek out bolt-on acquisitions and conduct a $10 billion stock buyback. Investors failed to embrace the proposed merger, with Cigna dropping nearly 10% since news on the deal began making rounds. The proposed $60 billion cash and stock deal would have created an entity worth over $140 billion to better compete against heavyweights CVS Health and United Health. Experts believe Cigna and Humana would be able to pull off the merger, but investing group leader Daniel Jones said the odds of a deal were quite low given the antitrust concerns. In terms of today's markets, in Asia, Japan up 1.5%, Hong Kong down 0.8%, China up 0.7%, India up 0.2%. Yeah, really mixed across the board. London down 0.6%, Paris up 0.2%, Frankfurt flat. The Dow flat, S&P down 0.1%, basically flat. NASDAQ down 0.2%, crude down 0.8%, gold down 0.4%, Bitcoin down 3.2% to 42,350. And we're going to finish up here with our rapid fire stock news rundown. What else is happening? Record-breaking U.S. supply is weighing on the global oil market. Boeing, ticker BA, says Stephanie Pope as potential CEO successor, or they eye Stephanie Pope as potential CEO successor. DoorDash gets call up to NASDAQ 100, and Zoom to exit, RIP COVID stocks. EV sector outlook, why Tesla, Rivian may lap the field. So Tesla and Rivian. Sherry, Redstone, Moles options for Paramount amid interest. Amazon, ticker AMZN, files motion to dismiss FTC antitrust case. Southwest, ticker Love, flight attendants vote against tentative deal. Bosch plans to cut 1,500 jobs at 2 factories in Germany. New polls differ on holiday consumer spending forecasts. And then Oppenheimer analyst details predictions for generative AI. So that'll wrap us up and take us out here on December 11th. Oh, yeah. No, it was. I appreciate it, Coco. Actually, it is what it is. But I did try. I probably put in like an hour and a half. We were all. I'll show you guys some pictures. Maybe I'll have my social media guy like edit up a nice little reel and I'll post that so you guys can get some kind of inside looks at what the gingerbread house competition and everything looks like. But it is a pretty ornate setup, right? It's people don't come to play, but unfortunately, I personally got played, and it is what it is. Sometimes you win, sometimes you lose, but you got to learn and have fun, right? And then level up next year. But everybody, make sure you have a great rest of the day, right? Let's make sure that we make this a great week on purpose. And I'll see you back here tomorrow morning for our next pre-market prep session of the week. Have a good one.